All right, folks, welcome back to a Halloween edition of the PagerDuty Automation and Rundeck release notes. Guys, in addition to these fabulous costumes, what do you have for us this week?
We have got our 5.7 release that just got pushed out. And it looks like Forrest is...
Morris Force having some
Can
technical
you still
difficulties.
hear me? I'm wondering if my camera stopped.
Yeah, your camera
Yeah.
seems to have stopped. We can
Of
hear
course
you.
it stops on Halloween when I'm wearing silly hat.
I mean, at least we can still see a static version of you and your...
Let me leave it and come back in. But I'll tee it up real quick with the release notes and maybe give Jake some space to chat while I figure out my camera. Our project runners management is now GA, right? It's something we announced in 5.3. So Jake, if you want to jump ahead and talk about that, then we'll come back to my overview of the release notes and have another community contribution topic to bring up.
Awesome.
Yeah, certainly. So I can pull up a particular window here, 5.7 release notes. All right, let's dig in. Yep. So 5.7 released and last week, and Force is highlighting the main kind of attraction, at least with 5.7, is our general availability of project-based runner management, which we initially released in 5.3. And just a recap of what that means, our enterprise runner, which allows for the distributed dispatch of automation orchestration across different networks or different environments, had been initially built kind of as a system level capability, and so only system or tool admins could create and manage runners, but we then brought that into the project context. So it's, just a visual demonstration of what that now looks like. If I'm in the project within Runbook Automation, cloud or self-hosted, there's now a runner management tab, and I can see and manage the runners for my particular project, which has a lot of implications. But the primary implication here is that it can give the teams that are using Runbook Automation, that are operating within the context of a project, it gives them the autonomy and independence to create runners and then run automation on their runners or through their runners that is pertinent only to their team. And they can install whatever dependencies they need on their runner, and not have to worry about stepping on the toes of other teams that are using Runbook Automation. We frequently see this where one team has maybe one version of Ansible, and then another team, and therefore needs a different Python version. And if these teams are operating off of the same runner, that becomes very, very complex. And so the alternative is turning to your system admin and asking them, to install an additional runner for you and your team.
Yeah.
So just a lot of cycles spent on something that we think should be pretty straightforward. So that's where project-based runner management comes in. And so, as a project lead or project admin can now create a new runner and install it wherever I need to, install whatever binaries or dependencies I want on that runner, and then use it for my team strictly within my project. And so now this is generally available to all Runbook Automation customers, again, cloud or self-hosted. And so this has been out for a couple of months now, since 5.3, and we've iterated on a little bit, but by and large the feedback has been positive. So it's now available to all.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that's probably very, very helpful for folks who have all kinds of different projects in their environments.
So is that on by default now, or is there like a feature enablement process customers need?
Yeah, good question. So it is on by default, but similar to other the way that our access control list permissions work, it's an activation list mechanism. So like an opt-in. So like if you want a project admin to have the ability to see this tab and to then manage runners within the project context, you need to specifically add those permissions to that user or to that user group. So while the feature flag is no longer needed, so long as you add the right permissions for users, they will start seeing it and being able to use it.
Okay, so it might be the case that someone has provided some very specific rights to users in a project, and they might not see it right away, but if they log in with their full admin account or something deeper, they can adjust those ACLs, and the tab there on the left will show up as needed.
Exactly. The other major enhancements that we had released in 5.5, which are the dynamic dispatch and the runner as a node, those are still in early access, but we intend on making those generally available as well very, very soon.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we'll work backwards towards the Halloween work backwards day, I guess. Jake and I did discuss dressing up like the other. He was going to wear a hat. I was going to wear a quarter zip up, but we went with costumes instead because these are more entertaining. I think.
The other would be too subtle, I feel like.
Yeah, you'd have to be a regular watcher to get that one. Yeah.
The 5.7.0 release that we have here, along with the GA, another long list of CVEs. You can see in the additional updates section a variety of CVEs getting addressed both in different plugin spaces as well as across the core of the product. Bug fixes as well. There was also a fix to the Ansible plugins where there was some trouble with Windows authentication versus SSH authentication. That was addressed with a new update to the Ansible plugins. So if anyone, that probably would have only really affected, I think, the recent couple of versions. If you upgraded very recently, ran into that. And then we did enhance a little bit, put some more information into our PagerDuty Get Incident plugin. So the Get Incident plugin allows you to automatically reach out and just get details on an incident and output them to your job output in the used heavily in the context of automated diagnostics. We've included more details, right? More content from that incident out there. And we did have a community contribution to the core product. So if we scroll down a little bit, I hope I don't, totally ruin the name. Aisling Kells, username Sway23 there, sent us, a little fix. And that leads me to what I wanted to talk a little bit more about was we leaned into it a little bit last time, but we have a few documents out there, how-to documents on how the community can contribute. And we added one recently that came from our wonderful UI developer, Sarah. Sarah and I were chatting at an offsite recently, and we know that a lot of customers want Rundeck in their own language. And, unfortunately, we, as a company don't have the bandwidth right now to do full-blown internationalization. We've relied on the community to do that. We're lucky enough to have quite a few of our engineers out of Chile and South America, so we get Spanish well covered.
Yeah.
But some of the other languages, I think a while back on release notes, I talked about some that came in from some users in, I believe it was French, if my memory serves me right. And Sarah and I were talking a little bit about it because we do get the request, and she helped us. Jake, I think you're sharing, if you want to go to learning and how-to articles and down to contributing. Right, so our contributing section here has now 3 articles, but we added this new one where how you can go through and translate Rundeck into your own language. She provided some of the steps There is a little bit of a heavy learning curve up front, right? You have to be ready to build the product and dive into some heavier code. It's not quite as simple and straightforward as maybe the contribute to Rundeck documentation article that's up there above. But we did, iron out, and figure out where would you go, where would you do this, and what would what would that look like? We absolutely appreciate these, contributions when we get them. So definitely bonus points and a call out in future release notes videos for anyone that submits any translation updates for us.
No, that's awesome.
We do Google Translate check them though, so no sneaking in some fun stuff. We do run them by the folks that know the language and are going to validate it for us.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic for folks out there. Yeah. Is there any language that gets particularly requested that we want to make a shout out if anybody is available?
We've had some recent wins in Japan. And that was the request that drove my conversation a little bit with Sarah of like, I don't know how to teach, I didn't know, I'm not a developer. I didn't know how to teach or coach customers to go down that path if they wanted to, help out with the project. So, the Japanese language is probably something I think that we have maybe some in there. We've gotten some contributions maybe, but not enough, right? As I said, we've got quite a bit of Spanish, quite a bit of French. I haven't really done an evaluation across the board, but there's a list of languages down at the bottom that it can fit into the code well.
Oh, okay. English, Spanish, French, Japanese, Portuguese, Chinese. Okay.
Yeah. We're hoping our Portuguese counterparts. We have quite a few folks in the list as well. We're hoping they jump on with us and help us out. Again, I don't really know how well covered it is. Maybe we'll have some folks look into that.
I mean, internally, Hack Week is coming up, so like, I don't know if you want to put the call out on that or not, but
maybe I'll drop this release notes video into the Hack Week channel.
Yeah, there you go.
Like, for what we're talking about, for those from the public, once, sometimes twice if it works out. The engineering teams across PagerDuty get to participate in a Hack Week. They get to step away from their day-to-day, and they are allowed to work on any project that they want across any product in the in the PagerDuty sphere. So even if they work on our Runbook Automation team, they can go work with another team, and there are prizes. It is competitive. There's a whole judging panel around it, and we really get some interesting ones. I think there was one at one point that would any video, like take a video and put a 3D pagey on your shoulder or something. That was a while ago. Mandy, are you involved in that? Aren't you heavily involved in?
Our team participates a little bit in the judging and setup, and we've done projects out of our team in the past as well. We did some Terraform stuff last spring, like spring of 23, that's out there in the world. But yeah, I mean, and we featured some of the projects here on the stream and on the podcast as well. Like, there's been some interesting stuff come out of the internal Hack Weeks. And even if it doesn't make it into the product proper, like there's some interesting learnings that get had, I think, across the board, some of the really interesting ideas that folks do. But yeah.
So I think that's coming up in a couple weeks here. And I'm not sure if we'll get, a lot of translations out of it. They usually try to be far more creative, but maybe if someone wants to spend a little time and give a throwback. We do try. I do try. I don't often participate directly on a team. I will jump in and give guidance and advice to the different teams, and as well as I try to advocate for some Runbook Auto. We have so many options for different plugins, right, Jake? If you want to go to that plugin section, there's so many different ways to integrate with process automation or Rundeck, right? All these plugins, how to write them, how to work with them is all documented out here. So if someone either internally or in the community is interested in, hey, I have this need to write a job set plugin, or I want to get my nodes from this particular source, you can write that plugin yourself, right? You don't have to do everything via script, which is sometimes hard to maintain long term, or hard to reuse. You can reuse these plugins, write your own plugins, and there's definitely help out there in the community for writing these.
Yeah, we did a webinar yesterday talking about all sorts of topics, but one of them was around plugin development, and we dove deep into the job lifecycle plugin. And I won't spend a ton of time on it here. I'd recommend people watch the recording of the webinar, but this one is I'd say, undervalued plugin type in that you can declare things that need to happen when someone attempts to save or modify a job, or before an execution, as it says here. And so, the demonstration that we walked through is like, if users, and this is declared at a project level. So if a users within a given project create a job that doesn't have like a required job option, like an input parameter, you can automatically have that job option added to that job that the users are creating within that project. Or you can throw an error that says, hey, you forgot to add the, secret, super secret value job option to your job. And then there's other types of requirements that you can basically set for job definitions at a project level through this job lifecycle plugin. So, all of these plugin types are open source friendly. So users of the open source community can write any types of these plugins. So,
I was talking with someone recently about the execution lifecycle plugin, right? That's a plugin that runs at the end. If anyone out there is familiar with our ROI metrics program plugin, that is what one of those is. But we were talking with a customer that wanted to send job output to their data warehouse.
Right.
And one approach is to use that execution lifecycle plugin and just, export very specific data that they wanted in their data warehouse, so they can do, reporting on that.
Right. Yeah, and maybe it was the same customer. A customer I spoke with did exactly that for Logstash. So any job that gets run, it sends the metadata about the job execution to Logstash. And so in Kibana, they can visualize which jobs are getting used the most, which ones are failing the most, so on and so forth.
And it doesn't have to include the full job output, right? We know that we have logging integrations, but that's going to capture everything and harder to parse. This is, in this particular use case, they just wanted specific meta information. What was the job name? How long did it run for? What was its status? So that they can run, metrics and performance, information on, how are our jobs doing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. A lot of flexibility there in all these components.
And the UI plugins have always been, fun. Yeah. You can have an impact on the UI. We've seen colors changed and stuff like that.
Awesome. Cool.
Great. I think that covers it. I'm just checking out my release notes here, and I think that's about it for this time.
Cool. Anything coming up that folks should be watching out for?
If you're going to KubeCon, you will see like the early preview of what we're going to be releasing or announcing in 5.8. So maybe that's a giveaway of what to expect in 5.8, but go to KubeCon, find us there, and you'll get to see the latest and greatest before we showcase it to the public.
And whatever release notes video we do after KubeCon, we will bring that content here as well. But we hope to see you at KubeCon.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. If you're going to be at KubeCon, we have an actual, we're having a meetup Tuesday night, and we'll have that information on our events website as well. So folks can join us, come hang out, and visit us then in the booth on the expo days. And if you're planning ahead and you're coming to reInvent, we will be front and center in a booth bigger than some apartments I've lived in this year. So we'll be hard to miss. So please stop by and say hello. So, Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
Awesome. Are you guys coming to KubeCon in Salt Lake
Nope.
City?
No.
Okay.
No, we will have a good contingency.
Although our friend Joey in the chat, I believe, will be there. So we are going to, he has inspired so much fun here on the channel, and we're going to give back to him and let him demo the Kubernetes plugins.
Fabulous.
So we're going to make it easy.
Excellent. That'll be great.
It easy. The Kubernetes plugins are going to be really, Jake, sing his praises all the time, but he's done a great job at what he's been able to design and put together for those. So.
Excellent. All right, we'll keep our eyes out for that and get that scheduled when they're all ready to go. And in the meantime, we'll wish everybody hopefully an uneventful Halloween evening and not needing to dodge any wrenches and any of that kind of stuff as it appears. So yeah, we'll be back next time with more release notes and whatever else happens in the meantime, for sure, right? So
I'll borrow Jake's wrench to work on my steam engine.
Yeah, exactly. You have some valves that might need to be adjusted there with that particular kind of wrench.
Right.
So yeah, awesome. All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Mandy. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.